You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, let's talk about Brendan Sorsby. That's right, a lot of attention. Todd McShay put out a very in-depth podcast this morning with Albert Breer on there about Brendan Sorsby and what's going on, because he's talked to teams, and we've got some insight into evidently what all these NFL teams, as far as what's the value of Sorsby. It looks like it's probably doubtful that the league would suspend him, but it's possible. They did not with Kayshon Boutte, so I don't know what's going to happen there. But a couple of key takeaways from Todd McShay's show this morning was, number one, this is the group that Brendan Sorsby was in. He was in the group with Arch Manning, C.J. Carr, Dante Moore, and Lenore Sellers. So there was a chance he'd be a top 10 or top 5 pick in the National Football League draft next year without all these issues, if he had a good college season, right? So there's that. Teams are looking at that. This is the next interesting thing. All teams told Todd McShay, second round to get this guy. It's going to take a second round pick, they think, to get this guy, or they all have him graded out as second round right now. I'm talking about in the supplemental draft as it stands right now with the gambling. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that to get him, you may have to spend a first-round pick. I mean, you're going to have to get out ahead of that other group of teams. I think McShay said he talked to something like 5 or 6 teams. But you got the Browns, you got the GM saying one thing, the coach saying something else. Aaron Glenn of the Jets has also made comments about Sorsby. This is all getting very interesting. And the one thing that we did not know that we know now, you can use any of your picks to get him. For example, the Jets have 3 first-round picks. They can use any one of those picks that they choose to use to get this guy. So let's just come over right here. The Jets hold 3 first-round picks. They have their own, and the Colts, and the Cowboys. So you would probably use whichever the one of the lowest first-round picks, which would probably be the Dallas Cowboys, I think most people believe, right, to get this guy. Well, Rhodes, why would they even do this? Well, simply put, they might be able to draft Jeremiah Smith next year instead of having to take a quarterback. I mean, that's their. This is not only a loaded quarterback draft. This will be one of the probably top 3 to 4 drafts of all time. There are big-time wide receivers in this next draft. There's tackles in the next draft. This next draft is a blockbuster. Okay? So, you may be like, why is everybody doing this? Well, simply put, 6'3", 235, 27 touchdowns, 5 picks, 2,800 yards last year, but let's understand something. You're doing this because he's got almost 1,000 attempts in college, 7,200 yards, 60 touchdowns to only 18 picks, and 22 rushing touchdowns. So 82 touchdowns, and he's got real size, folks. He's a dynamic runner, and basically what you've got right now is you've got teams that are scared shitless that they are going to miss out on the next Mahomes or Josh Allen. So that's why teams are looking. And the thought coming out when I was listening to McShay's podcast is the Vikings and the Steelers are probably the 2 teams to be watching. because at least with the idea of spending a first-round pick, because they're not going to draft high enough next year to get one of these quarterbacks. They may be drafting somewhere between 18 or later in next year's draft. So those quarterbacks are going to be gone. So they may have to look at an alternative method of trying to get a first-round talent on the team. Right? So let's do Aaron Glenn first. Right here, Aaron Glenn focused on the Jets amid Brendan Sorsby rumors. Quote, I'm focused on the guys that we have right now, per Josh Alper of Pro Football Talk. I'm sure that's something me and general manager Darren Muji will talk about. I got quarterbacks here that we focus on right now. All right. He also said that it's not fair for him to comment on Sorsby's gambling. I have no idea what that is, to be honest with you, Glenn said in response. I've heard about it. I've seen it on TV, but I don't want to respond to that because I have no idea of the inner workings of that. It's not fair to that player for me to do that. So, Todd Monken of the Browns, quote, I don't think we're in a position to want to go down that road. That's my opinion. That's not Andrew Berry's. I like the quarterbacks we have. I think it's a slippery slope when you go down that, irrespective of talent, right? In terms of the situation he's in himself, we know what that is. He put himself in that situation. We've seen other sports with players that have been banned for life for playing in professional sports. I think it's a slippery slope to go down that road. Again, that's a question for Andrew and for management. But from my end, that's a tough angle to go down. And I think that's going to be your franchise quarterback if he's ever eligible to even play in the NFL. Todd Monken indicated he's pleased with the Browns quarterback situation. I think they both can start and play winning football. I'm convinced of it. I'd say if I didn't, both have earned the opportunity to continue to compete with pads on. All right. Enter in Andrew Berry. Because he's clearly got a different opinion here. He's clearly got a different opinion. Quote, I think there are two things. There are two questions I ask because we're all human, and I imagine everybody that's on this call and listening to this show, I'm sure everybody's made mistakes. I really ask two questions. I ask, number one, is this a bad person or did he make a bad decision? And then the second piece is, what are they doing after the fact to correct the behavior? Is this a pattern of decision making? And if so, have they done something to stop the pattern? Or is it an isolated incident? Because the reality of it is, we're all going to screw up. And some certainly make mistakes. Some mistakes are greater in magnitude than others. But I think the most important thing in Brendan's case is what he does from here. Obviously, it's a great first step to get the help that he needs. But it's like, okay, what is around him? What is he doing to make sure he can maintain healthy habits moving forward? So it seems like a very good start there. Obviously, I don't know all the details at this point, but I think probably within society, so to speak, we could all use a little bit more grace. So you got Todd Monken saying, basically, I don't want any part of it. You got Barry going, well, wait a minute, he's just human here. Uh-oh. That's a GM that's interested in this guy. As a follow-up, Barry was asked about such character concerns, specifically when thinking about how a quarterback leads and being the face of the franchise. Quote, I also think that probably the most important thing are internal leadership. So how does the player prepare? How do they relate to teammates? Are they coachable to the coaching staff? Are they the anchor when there's tough moments in the game? Because that's the stuff that actually makes the biggest impact. And those are people, the biggest constituency that the individual has to lead and serve. So there's really more the priority than what I would say maybe the more marketability of it. But you like to have everything. You like to have everything ideally, but very few players fit that, though. This is going to get so interesting. And again, the thought process is, during that Machade broadcast, they brought up the Cowboys just like I did, but they also brought up the Detroit Lions because Jared Goff's got 2 years left on his deal, or maybe it's 2 years before you can get out of the deal. And they're obviously going to be drafting later in the first rounds, and they can't take Jared Goff's replacement. But it seems to be the Steelers and the Vikings. And I think you've got to watch the Jets because they got 3 first-round picks. You know? But every team said second round. So if these teams think they're going to throw a fourth out there and hope to get him, they're not. They're not. Some of the other takeaways from Todd McShay's podcast, he's an elite athlete / runner, A+ from the playmaking, scrambling, that kind of aspect. Pocket passer, he gave him a C, I think it was. So there's improvement to be had there too. But look at what Josh Allen was coming in. When Josh Allen was taken, I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. Shit, I was wrong. I mean, and I think teams got to do a better job of coaching it up anyway. The question is he going to be able to quit gambling? The football player part, I don't think there's any worries there. It's the gambling that is the big concern. The supplemental draft, and by the way, he did officially apply for the supplemental draft. So, and the NFL will not block him from entering the supplemental draft. So, tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.